Hey humans, how's it going? Susan Ruth here. Thanks for listening to another episode of Hey Human Podcast. This is episode 282, and I had a conversation with Dr. Thomas Ousterhout. He was hailing from Denmark, where he lives, and we had a conversation about his upbringing and the state of things in Denmark. And also, we had a big talk about mental health and how the brain works in reality versus perception and how we talk to ourselves, that kind of thing. Really interesting guy, and I think you're going to enjoy this one. He's got a lot of journalistic papers that he's written. He's written a book called The Matrix Has You. I will put all that stuff on the links page for you to check out more about Thomas after you listen to the episode. He experienced depression as a child and had a suicide attempt. And that process that he went through and getting to the other side of it created a desire to want to know more about his own sense of self and well-being and for those around him. So he ended up getting his doctorate in psychology and pursuing that as a career on top of the other stuff he does. So really interesting guy, and I look forward to you hearing about him. In other news, Hey Human Podcast can be found on social media under Instagram and Facebook. My personal social media is Susan Ruthism. You can email me, susan@heyhumanpodcast.com. If you go to heyhumanpodcast.com, you'll find that links page I referred to, and you can learn more about every guest I've had on the show. Rate and review Hey Human on iTunes. It helps greatly. Or really, wherever you get your podcast, you can rate and review there. But iTunes is a real big one. If you want to sign up for the mailing list, you can do so at susanruth.com. You'll also find more information about me in general on susanruth.com, the things that I do outside of the podcast. If you'd like to donate to help keep Hey Human going, there is a support button on heyhumanpodcast.com. Please check that out. We are an ad-free podcast, and by we, I mean me. I do this all by myself, and it really helps to get those donations to keep the show going. Thank you for your continued support and for listening and for spreading the word. It really means a lot to me. So thanks for listening, everybody. Stay well, be good to each other, be kind, just take care in general, yeah? It's a lot going on in the world, and it's easy, as we talk about on this episode, it's easy to get caught up in all of it. Make sure you take a little time for you and breathe. Just know that since the dawn of time, since humans have existed, there has been stuff. You got this. I believe in you, if that makes a difference at all. And I'm glad you're here. Keep going. Keep staying here. We need you. The world needs you, honestly. I believe that. So, all right, here we go. Thomas Ousterhout, welcome to Hey Human.
Thank you so much for having me.
That is a cool last name.
It's a big last name, so I always have to explain it to people because they always ask where it's from and how do you pronounce it. So there's always a story that comes along with it.
And my friend Andrea, who knows your parents, she said that it means Eastwood.
Does it? I thought it meant out of the house. I for some reason, I never took the time to figure that out.
It means Eastwood apparently. And she said that she talked to your dad about it at length, and they came to the decision that you are related to Clint Eastwood. So there's that.
That's good news. Makes me feel a lot better about my situation.
So if you need to write him a letter.
I'll just write him, say what's up, and he'll help me.
Hey, Uncle.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Well, welcome. Now, where are you currently?
I am located in Copenhagen, Denmark, and I've been here for 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah, a long time.
What brought you there? Was it school?
My mom was Danish, so I have a Danish background. And then when I was finishing college, you have to really make a big change in life anyway. So I thought I might as well just check out Denmark and just see how it is. And I lived at this. It's a type of school that we don't have in the States. It's called a Hoy school, which is kind of like a high school, but it's like a camp, like a summer camp, but a year long but academics. So you go there to just kind of mess around with a bunch of different subjects. There's no tests. you just kind of get a feel for things. Most people do it right when they're after high school. People usually do it after high school, before college. So most people, they were like 18, 19. I was 23, so a little bit older than most people. But anyway, I was there for a year, and I just loved it so much that I decided to stay. And then I did my master's and PhD, which was not the plan at all. I didn't have a plan, but I just loved it so much. Also because I didn't know how Danish I was, because the way my mom raised me, I thought, well, this is just normal. This is how you're raised. All the things you don't think about, that the way that you're raised is somehow different than other people think. This is, everyone in the world is raised this way. But then when I went to Denmark, I saw like, oh, okay, now I really get it. So I learned a whole lot about my mom, and I totally fit in, and it just clicked. It was an effortless click, and I loved it, and there's been no going back.
It's really interesting because you do have a slight accent.
That's what I've heard. I can't hear it, and my parents can't hear it because they've been with me these 12 years over the transition. But if I see a friend who I haven't seen in a while, they will say that I do sound different now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can hear that it's a tonal thing, perhaps more than anything, and a clip. And there's a clip in it as well.
I don't know. I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Yeah. I think that people are, especially if you go somewhere when you're young, it's pretty easy to become a bit of a minor bird and just pick up cadence and tone. And
probably also because since I've been speaking, my mom's been speaking to me Danish my whole life. When I came here, I picked up the language super fast. So there were situations where I was speaking more Danish, like if I was in a relationship and they wanted to speak Danish. The people I speak mostly Danish with. So there were times where I was speaking more Danish than English, and so that probably facilitated the change in the way that I spoke.
You've been assimilated.
I've been totally assimilated. Also, I really wanted to get good, so I took classes that were equivalent to Danish high school. So if you want to study at the university in Danish, which I studied in English, but if you do want to study in Danish, you have to pass a certain exam that says you're at the high school equivalency test. And I passed that, so I studied a lot to get to that level. So there's lots of reasons why I probably have this accent now.
That school you were talking about, where you get to study, I got to do something akin to that. It was in Seattle. It's called Operation Exploration.
Oh, yeah? Yeah,
and it's a summer camp where you go and learn science all summer.
I was going to say, it sounds like a space camp. Like, it totally sounds,
It was like really cool. I loved it.
Sounds cool.
I remember one of the coolest things, we made a giant Jiffy Pop. You know the Jiffy Pop that you put on the stove and it's got the tin foil?
No, I don't.
Yeah, it's you stick. It's just a tin with popcorn, and then it's got foil over it.
Like that. I was thinking. Of course, I know what that is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we made them in the sun using conductors and stuff. And it's funny because I'd seen the movie Real Genius, and they have a giant, humongous one in that movie. And I was like, I've done that.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's cool.
Anyway, very cool. All right, let's talk about childhood. So you grew up with what is your mom? What's her career? Because I know your dad's a surgeon.
She was a flight attendant, and that's how she from then she moved to Denmark to be a flight attendant and for Pan American back when that existed. But then when she met my dad, she kind of stopped working and was just.
Your dad's a charmer. I could see him.
Charmer. Yeah, he's a total charmer. So she just enjoyed that lifestyle and took care of me and my brother. So yeah. Okay. And was it a fun childhood? Was it strenuous? Because a surgeon father has got to be a bit intense, even when for me meeting him, totally different vibe than you being a child of him. Sure. Yeah. Well, he was gone a lot. Because one of those surgeries takes like 12 hours or something ridiculous, or even longer. I don't know. But anyway, he was gone all the time. So he was kind of absent until dinner time, and then I'd see him for dinner, and then he would go back to his office at home and work a lot. So in his effort to provide a wonderful lifestyle, there was some absence, which I thought that was fine because I just hung out with, my mom and my brother. There's kids around. So, I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages to whatever you do. And he loved me to death, but there was some absence there.
Yeah. My dad was like that too. I mean, he worked nonstop. So yeah. I think, our generation, that's just what dads did.
Yeah. But I can also understand, like, when you're a kid and you don't know what it means to work, you're like, why do you work so much? But now when I do the things that I do and I have my passions, and like, I get it. Like, I get, like, that's all, like, I have my, like, I'm very happy to do that all day long. I don't want to do other things, like it's when my friends ask me to go out to, like, I don't party that much anymore because it's such a distraction. It's like, no, that's a whole night where I could be doing, working on my thing, and then the next day you're hungover. And at my age, you're like 2-day hangovers. So it's like,
I know, right?
Like 2 days of wasted time that I would much rather work on my thing. And so I get it. You don't get it when you're a kid, but when you're older, it's like I've relearned who my parents are as I've been older, because I was like, okay, now I get why you did the thing. Especially my mom living here in Denmark, like, both, not especially my mom, both equally for different reasons. My mom, as like a person and who she is, but my dad as a working guy, like, why you're so passionate about that and spend so much time on that? Like, I've learned who they are from just a whole new perspective.
It's when we dismantle, children looking at our parents as the end all be all. And when we get to a certain point where we can dismantle that and see them as human beings and their foibles and flaws and humanity, and that, if they screwed up here, that's because they're human. Yeah,
I remember the first time my dad said that someone else was stronger than him. I thought, what? Someone is stronger? There's no way. I thought you were the strongest guy in the whole world. How is it even possible to do that? Because you think they're the ultimate people,
I do. Yeah, absolutely. It's a weird place. It allows for a lot more forgiveness, which is nice.
Yeah. That's something I talk a lot about in this mental health thing I do. I keep reminding people the importance of forgiveness, and how we ourselves are not innocent, and of course no one else is either. And it's such a freeing gesture for yourself and them to just be, I forgive you for your faults, which aren't even necessarily faults. They're just you being a human,
Yeah, and I mean, forgiveness isn't a two-way street either. It's a one-way street. It doesn't really make a difference what the other person, if you're ready to forgive, that's all about you. And a lot of times the other person doesn't even acknowledge.
Yeah. They won't even know they're long gone even.
They're long gone. Yeah, exactly.
There's so many different variable situations that they could be. And it's something I tell people, it's not something that the person necessarily deserves, but you deserve forgiving them.
Yeah.
Because it's such a liberating. There's so much anger or a lot of terrible emotions that come from not forgiving, and you think that you're just or in the right place to hold on, and maybe you are, but either way, you're hurting yourself holding on to that.
I agree. Do you dual citizenship?
I do have dual citizenship. Yeah. The first time when I first started traveling, I felt almost like Jason Bourne, because I would bust out different passports depending on where I was going and which line I wanted to get into and security and things. So I have 2 passports, which has made things so much easier as far as moving here, buying an apartment, not having to figure out a lot of paperwork when you a permanent citizenship or residence or all that stuff. I don't know anything about that stuff because I just and when I got here, I wasn't really registered in the system. So when I got here and I registered, I got flagged because in Denmark, all males have to go to the military to pull a lottery number when they're like 18. And it's a 1 in 7 chance. And it's not like as crazy as it sounds. You just kind of, at summer camp shooting rifles or whatever for like 4 months, or I don't know the details. But then when I was 23 or 24 and I registered, I had to go to the military to take a number because I had Danish citizenship, and I didn't even know what, I had to go to this meeting with all these dudes, and there was like a general talking about the whole thing, and I wasn't even good at Danish, and I didn't know what he was even talking about, but I still had to take a number, and a doctor had to give me a physical and all these things.
My gosh.
So I got a free number, but like I pass. But yeah, yeah. So as being a citizen, you have to, and that's different. Like that really blew my mind that was a requirement. It seems so foreign, like having to go to the military. It seems so like.
Yeah, but America's one of the few countries that don't do that, or one of the last countries. I guess we used to do that, but we certainly don't do it now.
Yeah.
And there's the argument for, well, if we had that, maybe the powers that be wouldn't be so quick to send their children to war. However, they have money and they easily buy them out of those situations. So that's, yeah. I bet you got a lot of marriage proposals when a lot of the shit was going down here. So like, everybody's like, I'm going to go move to.
Everyone wants to come to Europe. Yeah. And then also Denmark and Scandinavia got a lot of press, in particular because of socialism and how different that was and a lot of things. So there was a lot of attention. There was a couple of years ago, a lot of attention on Denmark, or maybe even still, but it's calmed down. But I remember a lot of people were inquiring about what's up with Denmark. And
yeah, because your incarceration system, your healthcare system, your education system.
Yeah, so many things are free, which means that, and everyone's basically middle class. So what that means is you have a whole, let's just say, a world of middle class people, and they don't have any debt from education or healthcare, which means everyone has a lot of pretty much all your money is disposable income unless you're saving for something like which would only be an apartment or a house or something. And so there's this high quality of life thing going on where people do have money to go out in restaurants and they travel a lot. And because of that, there's also a lot less crime because no one's stealing from each other because everyone's doing just fine and everyone's on the same level. So there's this social cohesion, and it's just there's street festivals and there's music things and there's free things all over the place and everyone's educated. Like having a master's degree is not even impressive at all because everyone has a master's degree. Like imagine, like why would you leave college after your bachelor if you just do it for 2 more years and just get a master
for free?
Like why would you like, no, I'm gonna get out of this. So everyone has a master's degree who's in, unless you go in another field, another direction. But everyone who goes to school has a master's degree. So
they have great drug programs there too, right? For people that have any kind of addiction issues. Aren't there really great?
I don't know. I know I live close to the red light districts and close to me there's like it's called like the men's home where I don't know what goes on in there, but it seems to be like a safe place for that. And right outside the street, there's mothers with the baby strollers and there's parks around. So it's not when you make it so aware, like obvious, and not try to hide it and say this is where it's going to be, and we'll allow it here or whatever. Then it becomes fine, and it's like okay, well we know this is here, and they're harmless, even though you walk by and sometimes there's crazy stuff happening, but it's harmless. It's isolated there. So I don't know if that's just recovery or just kind of a place to go. But I mean, I think there's a lot of money going on into healthcare to help people with various things, regardless of if it's drugs or other mental health situations.
Is it strange when you get a large influx of, for example, Americans who, oh my God, the red light district, let's go there. That must be weird to see. Because I remember when I was graduating from high school, we went to Mexico, and I remember having a conversation with someone there, and they were saying, yeah, Americans come and they go crazy. They get so drunk and they end up in jail and they, pass out or they die or whatever. And in Mexico, we don't have that drinking age. So nobody really has an issue with it. Especially the youth don't have an issue with it because it's not this sacred 21-year-old rite of passage, whatever. Do you see that happening there?
Well, I know that Danes, they start drinking when they're like 13 or as soon as they want to, they start drinking, and they can buy at the grocery stores, and they do that in high school and quite a lot. So I remember when I was 23 and I was in a fraternity, so I'd been drinking a lot in college. And so when I went to Denmark and lived in school with a bunch of 18-year-olds, they could easily drink way more than I could, even though I had just been in a fraternity partying quite hard for 4 years. So, and they were 18. And so that kind of shows like they've had significant training from when, from a really young age. And so, yeah, I guess when because I was in this study abroad group when I came here, that the Americans did want to see like that sort of thing, because that was exotic. So I guess that was interesting, but also they were the people that were the Americans I was with were also over 21. So drinking wasn't new for that crowd of Americans I was with.
But sex, a red light district where, women are doing this legally, and some men, I assume, that blows a lot of people's hair back. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, now that you mentioned, I did. I did show a group of Americans when we walked down the street. It was like spot the prostitutes, and they're like, "How do you spot the prostitutes?" It's like everyone who's just standing and not doing anything is a prostitute, because that's what they do. They just stand there, and everyone else is moving. But if someone is just standing there, they're a prostitute. And so so there was like some fun things that they thought it was fun to see this, and it's harmless because I walk down the street every day to go to the central station, but it is harmless, and
yeah.
It's
just a job.
Like this is the place where it's going to be, and you make it overly obvious, it just becomes quite safe. And it's like, yeah, that's fine, no big deal. And there's kids, it's really no big deal.
I think there's a book in that says the Where's Waldo of sex workers. Spot the sex worker.
Oh, really? Yeah, yeah, totally.
No, you can make one. You can do it. That's retirement.
I remember when my brother came, we played that game because he hadn't seen prostitutes either. So I was like, let's walk down the street, and then you kind of spot them out. And so he would spot out if there was a girl who was really hot. I'm like, no, it's actually not the ones that are really hot. It's a lot of other ones that you would actually not really want to talk to. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, I'm sure it's even in a place where it's legal. It's probably it's a lot of work. It's a hard life in some respects. In many respects, probably. Let's get back to you and childhood. So you had issues with depression from a young age.
Yeah, well, I guess just around the teenage age, like when you're going through all those changes and moving schools, also because, those changes were quite difficult for me because of the lifestyle that I had been accustomed to. I was quite protected and quite sheltered, and everything was very much taken care of. So when I transitioned into when you go to start being a teenager and you start having to fight for yourself, I wasn't really prepared to do that. And for the first time in my life, things were not going well. And for the first time, things like rejection and from either girls or social situations or schools, applying to schools, like all of a sudden, like, wait a minute, things aren't just smooth sailing, even if just because you show up with a smile on. So that was hard. And a couple of years before that, my parents got divorced. So that totally shattered everything and disrupted the way that I thought of the world. Like how can something something that's supposed to be perfect all of a sudden collapse? And we moved a bunch of times, so that was stressful and traumatic, I guess, if you want to say traumatic. But it either way, moving around, it gave me a sense of like a placelessness, because I didn't know where I belonged and where we moved houses, and my family was split, and there was a lot of anger between them, which whether they meant to, or I don't think they didn't mean it to, but it did come into me. And so now I was angry at both of them. And I was just angry because of my, of your age. When you're a teenager, you're just angry at your parents anyway, and you blame everything on them anyway.
Well, and you're getting overdosed with testosterone.
Yeah. So many things, a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos. So, and that's just with the body and mind. And then, with family changes, school changes, things with girls, trying to get into a high school, not really getting the ones I want, having friends, leaving all them, starting over. It was just a lot of, but everyone had to do most of those things. But the reason I think it really affected me was because I was raised so protected from things that when it hit super hard, because I didn't have the resilience to deal with opposition.
So that's a great That's a great thing to bring up, because these helicopter parents that you read about that shelter their children, do everything for their children, it comes from a place of love, of course, but it doesn't serve the child very much when they have to go out into the real world, which is a trash heap, dumpster fire.
Absolutely, yeah. I just published an article. I publish articles every now and then. I just published an article about Denmark, which is ranked one of the happiest countries in the world, but it also is one of the highest antidepressant rates in the world. All the Scandinavian countries are in the top 10 in the whole world, and people can't really seem to figure this out. And I said, well, it's because the reason why people are so sad, the reason why there's so much sadness in a country that's so happy is exactly because it's so happy. So there are people that are sad because you're so protected, and then you make comparisons and you assume that everyone else is happy. But if something doesn't go well, you think, oh, it must be me. It can't be just life. So you take it extra personally and make this comparison that, oh, I'm in the happiest country in the world. I'm the only one that's not happy. So therefore, when you're taken care of with all these resources, exactly like how I was taken care of with my parents, the country takes care of its people, and so they don't have the resilience to kind of fight or deal with opposition. And so they think, well, let's just take antidepressants. That'll solve that because there's nothing wrong with my situation. It must be me. It must be my mind. So therefore, antidepressants will solve that problem.
Fascinating.
Yeah, rather than thinking, oh, well, sadness is coming and that's fine, so I'm just going to deal with the sadness and build mental resilience and mental strength. People don't want to, especially now with cell phones and everything being so fast and technology, it's like we don't have time to work on mental exercises, so we'll just take a pill. But it's just like if you want to have a good body, you spend or build your athleticism, you spend a lot of time doing physical exercises. If you want to have mental strength, you have to spend time doing mental exercises too. And if you don't, that your strength atrophies, and then anything can just knock you over and defeat you. And instead of putting the effort into wanting to build that, you'll just jump to antidepressants because that sounds like a quick fix.
That's so wild to think about an entire populace who is so well cared for. And it speaks a lot to the human condition of how we look for trouble. I think the nature of the human is in a lot of ways self-sabotaging. That's something you have to grow out of. And it's a default, it seems like, for a lot of human beings. And I always figured people were depressed there because of the weather being, because it's dark so much.
Well, it's hard for me to say definitively that it's not, I can't isolate a variable, but I'm just based off of what I know. I mean, if you look at a micro scale of the house and the lifestyle,
it makes sense.
And why I became quite prone to depression because of how protected I was. And then on a macro scale of the country and the way it treats its people, everything is very analogous. Just that your financial system and education, healthcare, people taking care of you, disposable income. It's all equal, but on different scales, if that makes sense. And so I think, the reason I got the way I was, it just seems like it fits. And I think the seasonal affective disorder, it's just kind of an easy, I must be that.
Although I don't know, I get it. When I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and when I go home to visit and it's 5 straight gray days, I think, ugh, God, it's a lot of.
Sure. And again, that's why I cannot say that it's not that, but it's
I think it's probably a mix of everything, but if what you say makes complete logical sense, that if everybody threw out their cell phones and didn't have any contact with the outside world and became a brigadoon or something, it would be interesting to see if they would still default to that, because we are bombarded constantly with our phones and our computers and our televisions about all the bad news in the world. And if you have an ounce of empathy in you, it would be very hard to not feel terrible about the world and then have that internalized if you don't have the mechanisms to get it out.
Yeah, and not only the negatives, but also you're also comparing yourself to, you're also comparing the best in others with the worst in yourself. Because when you go on Instagram or all these things, everyone's just projecting the best of themselves. And then you're sitting there in your underpants looking at these people and like, damn it. Like, like they're just here. It just, the contrast is so different that makes you think that contrast is real, even though you're just taking two opposites and comparing them, but they have, everyone's going through all these things too, but you don't see that. So,
well, we even know that it's fake. We know that they fake all those pictures and all that glamour and all that, everything is not real. We know that, and yet knowing that is still not enough to get the brain to not be like, but I could be faking that picture in the Ferrari or whatever.
It's not enough. Our emotions will easily override logic any day.
Damn it.
Even if you have like our emotions will even take a memory of the past, which is fixed, and then we'll change it. Like, oh my God, what if something terrible happened? And when we panic ourselves, even though it's in the past, and we know for a fact that it didn't go that way, we'll still create this whole world and freak out over something that for sure is not true.
So interesting.
So our mind is quite. It's good. There's a lot of religions call the mind the deceiver, because this is what it does. It loves to take things, and wherever you are weakest, it will alter. It will use that against you. Just like if you want to tickle somebody, and then you tickle them on their neck, and nothing happens. You'll go to the side, nothing happens. But if you go to the armpit and they squeal, you give the armpit 100%. You don't go to the other places. So your mind knows exactly. So you get a lot of thoughts, and a lot of these things have no meaning for you. So it's like, okay, whatever. Like, oh, your car, does that mean anything for you? No, okay, not your car. Oh, your body, your money. Oh, money? And then it'll just like, oh, money. And then it'll make you think about money all the time, like whatever your thing is, and just warp everything against you to give you so much agony about that one thing. But it's all up to you. It's like you've decided what the thing is, and now your mind, the deceiver, will turn everything against you with that.
Anxiety is a tickle monster.
It is. Yeah.
I read your article about the brain as a gaslighter. Our own brain's gaslighting us. I thought, oh my God, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. But like mental health, it seems a lot of people make it very complicated, but you can make it really simple and make it really obvious. Like just look how your mind is doing all these things to you that you don't think about. But the article is quite simple, I think, and everyone said it's so obvious and they never really thought about it, but it just really exposes how the mind loves to mess with you for no reason, just for fun.
And fear and anxiety are the same. They're in bed together, right? All those things. All that is it's the same scale. So. Exactly. Well, it'll come in different ways. Like anxiety doesn't have that. Didn't have too much power over me, but depression did, and like anger. That can't even really touch me. That I very rarely get angry, but some people will get angry and they won't get sad. So it'll come. It's basically just this heat. There's this heat inside you, and it will find whatever channel, whether it's lust or drug-assisted addiction or online shopping, violence, comparison, power, competition, fight. All these things. Most of those have no power over you, but one of them definitely does, and that heat will come out through that channel, or maybe two, but it's basically the same thing as this internal frustration. Some people will hurt others, some people hurt themselves, some people use others, some people abuse themselves. It's literally the same thing. So when I help these people, they like to go on their back, like a bunch of backstory. And I'm like, I actually don't need your backstory, because I just know pain and now you're here. Like, you know what I mean? And it's just like, we have to just change the way you're thinking. All the whole backstory isn't actually too important for me to be able to help you change the way you're thinking and bring some peace into your life. Were you suicidal as a teenager? Did you attempt suicide, or was it just thoughts?
No, yeah, I did when I was I guess it was a week before my 16th birthday. I tried to kill myself. I had a good friend, and we were gonna do it together. But he backed out, which is fine. So yes, I took a lot of pills. I took 140 Tylenol PM with vodka, I think it was. Totally amazing that I survived. But I guess I was, it's having a young body, 15-year-old body. I was able to do that anyway. But then I was in a hospital for a week, and then I was in a mental hospital, like a San Francisco mental hospital, for a month, and then they sent me to a lockdown institution for a year in Utah, and then I went to a therapeutic boarding school also in Utah to kind of step down because lockdown, like a year of lockdown institution, it was really intense. So there's this school, like it was like a step down program where it's kind of therapeutic. Well, it's definitely therapeutic, but you're allowed a little bit more freedom to kind of transition. Because even after that, when I went back to high school, that was so much of a culture shock, just being like a normal person. But yeah, so I was after my suicide attempt, and it was only that one attempt. I was in treatment for 2 years.
What was the lockdown experience like? Is that just therapy nonstop? I mean, lockdown sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, well, it's called a lockdown residential treatment center, it is really intense. Like it's not a place you go just to hang out. You're locked in. Like when I got there, I was strip searched. They went through everything. Turned all my pockets inside out. They opened the pens to make sure there's nothing in the pens. Like they're not messing around. Because you can use anything to hurt yourself, like a staple. You could easily just a staple. You could, so you got to be really careful. And I had to take a shower with a special shampoo. So that's it was quite serious. And then
sounds like prison.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, in some ways it was, and there's a lot. This one particular school I went to. Now, I saw recently a lot of articles have come out where people didn't like it because it was too much like prison. I really liked it. I not in the beginning, but I got so much out of it. It was such a life-changing thing, that experience. I loved it because it worked. It totally worked for me.
Was it just intense therapy every day, or?
Yeah. So we'd wake up 6 or 7, and then clean the hall, and then we'd have 1 or 2 therapeutic groups before lunch, and then school was actually only like until from 12 to 5. It was very minimal, and it was the quality wasn't that good because there's only everyone was taking the same classes. So from age 14 to 17. Everyone had to be on like a 14-year-old level, I guess. I don't know if that's totally true, but it wasn't really getting that great of an education. And then so at 5 you have dinner, and then there'd be another 1 or 2 therapeutic groups after that, and then there was therapy all weekend. So I think at the time I calculated it was like 70 hours of therapy every week. And then there's also you have a primary therapist, so you have individual therapy, and then you have family therapy which rotates between your parents who are divorced every other week. And then there's group therapies with there's like 120 people at this place, 60 guys, 60 girls, and you're on a team of 20 guys, and you're pretty much only with them. Rarely do you start interacting with the other guys, and even more rarely are you do anything with the girls. But there were some therapeutic groups where we would mix. Like I was in a group called Co-Ed group, where it was like if you want to have work on your issues with how to communicate with the other gender or sexuality or whatever, rejection, you talk about that in this group, which was once a week. So I was in that group. There was also an abandonment group. There's a lot of drug groups. Like most people were there for drugs. I was one of the few people who had never done drugs in there. It's just, I mean, there were just anything you can think of. People were in there for everything. There was nothing, like nothing is weird anymore. Like some people I remember right with some of the people in my group in this online thing that I'm building, which we can talk about later. So I can tell some people are trying to like shock me with craziness. I'm like, that's not crazy at all. Like, nothing is weird anymore because I've just heard so many incredible stories of people's backgrounds and what they've endured.
Did you make lifelong friends in there?
Lifelong? There's people that I'm still friends with on Facebook, but I don't really talk. I don't really talk to too many people in the States, just in general anymore, actually. But we're still really close. I mean, if I saw these people or talked to them on Facebook, it would be like nothing happened. We're still in touch on Facebook, whatever that means. We're close, but I haven't seen them in like 20 years, or so yes and no, I suppose. But but they're wonderful. It's totally some great people, especially because a lot of the people in the lockdown went to the therapeutic boarding school. Like it was kind of like a package deal for a lot of people. So I was with some of these people for 2 years.
Was the boarding school then? Did you do things like horseback ride and swim?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, exactly. We had it was very much structured like the lockdown, where we'd clean and then have therapeutic groups, and school was kind of like a middle area. But there were things like let's go out into Utah and do stuff, so there was like a skiing group. So during the winter I skied a lot. I think there was an equestrian group. There was camping. There was a mountaineering thing. Even there was a lot of things to be more like a normal person while still having. Everyone had a therapist. We had a group therapy all the time. So it was just a combination of let's get you out in the world, but we're still going to keep an eye on you type of thing.
Sure. Wow. Interesting. Did you know when you went off to college then that you wanted to make mental health your forte?
Well, I wanted to do something with it, but I didn't know how. So actually, when I went to college, I started studying accounting, which was a terrible idea, and I was really bad at it. I got terrible grades. I didn't like it, but I don't know why I thought, oh, I'll go to LA and do business, and I like math, so it seemed like that's what I should do. And then I did. After 3 years, it was like, no, this is awful. This is so bad. I was trying to force it so hard, and then I was like, why do this? So I switched out of accounting to psychology after my junior year. So then I did summer school. Like all the classes I could possibly take during summer school. I filled up my curriculum every single semester to be able to finish a degree in psychology within the 5 year time. So I was just like super saturated with classes, but I would pull it off. But it took a while of me trying to just force something that I felt like I should do. But then even when I was doing psychology, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do or how to do it. I didn't have a plan. I haven't had really much of a plan. Things don't really go according to plan. So I just kind of, just go in a direction and see what happens. And then, because then when I went to Denmark, I thought, oh, maybe I'll get a master's degree in psychology, and that's how I'll start my license. But then I couldn't study psychology because of a language barrier at the time. Because I hadn't passed that student exam, and psychology in Denmark is in Danish. So I did another type of psychology that was more technical, and that's how I got into neuroscience and brain-computer interfaces, which is what I did my PhD in, which is totally not involved related to, therapy. So I've been wanting to get involved in mental health, but I haven't really known how to. And I've been trying lots of things and just getting resistance, and just like, it's been really frustrating until these last few months. Things have been going really well, and it's very exciting. Did I see correctly that you wrote a dissertation about emojis? Yeah, well, because
so cool.
because the people that sponsored my PhD was a language. It's called the Department for Language Technology, and so I wanted to use psychology and language technology. And since language is evolving, I wanted to study. Well, can we incorporate emojis in text as a way to facilitate understanding? Because there's so much meaning that is missed in just a text message, especially if you got some kind of mental issue where you really rely on body language. So I did all sorts of experiments incorporating various emojis in different places in text and analyzing, does this actually help you in understanding the context of the situation, measuring various neurological signals. But so
how often did the eggplant get used?
Oh no, I know. I just kept it simple. I just used a couple smileys, because even just the different smileys there was way too personal. So it was actually quite hard to control, because everyone had a different opinion about what something meant.
Fascinating.
So, yeah, which and that makes sense, because even our body language, when we have gestures what that might mean to you and I would mean totally different, something different to a different culture. So that was actually quite difficult to control, and got me it really gave me a difficult time with a lot of my experiments, because I just assumed that, one of these faces, that's what this means. Everybody understands that. But then I found out later that the opinions were totally different, and that really messed with my results. So it was quite difficult, but it was a fun 3 years. And that's how I got really involved in working with neuroscience technology, and which was important in my career later. But
certainly in the future that's coming, neuroscience technology. I mean, it's the stuff that Elon Musk is talking about with the implantation of neural translinks and all that. And that's a big science coming up, and slightly terrifying. But
yeah, I know. I actually wrote a book about this sort of thing. Like back when I was in college, it's called The Matrix Has You, where I wrote about how brain-computer interfaces and virtual reality they were going to merge, and this thing was going to happen. And everyone thought I was crazy. It was a very technical book. It's not like a story. It's totally technical about how this was going to happen, and no one took me seriously. And now it's definitely happening, and it's happening exactly like how I said it was.
What's the book called?
It's called The Matrix Has You, or The Matrix Has You, because I use the film The Matrix as just a frame of reference. So while I'm talking about these technologies that no one's heard of, I'm relating it to The Matrix, which people would understand. So I'm like, okay, so this is what I mean. You see in the movie The Matrix, this happens. Okay, so this technology, you can have an ocular implant that changes, what you see, and auditory implants and all these sensory things, and virtual reality and goggles, and put them all together, and essentially, take Google Earth, put it all together, make it 3D, which they're doing, and now you got the Matrix. And that's basically what I said, with also robots and artificial intelligence and autonomous vehicles. I was saying how all this stuff was going to happen. But that's also why I really like neuroscience technology, and I've had several jobs working with neuroscience tech and virtual reality, because it's super cool. I think that's the future. I mean, it is the future. It's not even, I wonder if this is the future. Like, it's so full on, like everyone knows now that it's
the present, in fact.
Yeah, it's the present. So I think what Elon's doing is super exciting, and I actually can't wait to see it take off.
Would you get a neural implant?
I don't think, not right now. I mean, I have a device here, and I work. I'm about to start a new job with on Monday with a company that makes their own neural headsets. But it's not something that I would buy now for myself. It's too. It doesn't do enough stuff. It doesn't seem too useful. But it's very cool, and it is very exciting.
I just think about, I had Dr. Moran Surf on the show, and he talked a lot about brain hacking, and we touched a little bit on the neural implants and the possibilities of those being hacked. Yeah. That's a lot to take in, Yeah.
You can easily turn everybody into a drone, or have people do things against their will and not even remember it if you can erase them.
I feel like we're there already. We don't even need a neural implant for that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you can already control people. So yeah, good point.
It's called the internet.
Called the internet, yes, and marketing and politics and all that stuff. I mean, already.
Well, that's fascinating. Congrats on the new job. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure now that your book is probably being read by people, and people are thinking, "Oh, this guy was way ahead of his time."
I doubt it, because I was in college at the time, so I couldn't really. No one took. I'm not marketing it at all, so I don't think anybody.
Your dad is proud of it. He showed it to us.
My dad is proud of it. That's true. Yeah, my parents are my biggest fans, which is the only fans that I need also. So
that's right. That's great. I love that. Moving forward, so do you do inpatient things? Are you seeing patients, or is all your work academic? What's your work? I know that you're doing stuff with depression, so let's get into that as well. So maybe a segue.
I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing any inpatient stuff. I started while I've been doing my career in neuroscience tech. I've been wanting to get into mental health, and I didn't know how. And then at the end of last year, I found this social media platform called Almighty, which apparently is, I guess, the biggest in the world. They say they have 2 million users. So I thought, oh, this seems like an interesting place. I'll start write some articles, and that one that you mentioned about the gaslighting, I think that was the very first one I wrote. And it got so many likes just by strangers. Like if I put something on Facebook and I get likes, it's like, oh, it's my friends. So it's like, okay, that doesn't really, who cares? But it was strangers who I had no idea. They didn't know who I was. I knew they were. There was no information. It was all about the quality of what I wrote. And it was really inspiring. I was like, okay, well, if a lot of, 500 people in just a couple of days like this one article, and I have so many more articles in me. So then I started producing a couple of articles and getting a lot of positive feedback. And I thought, well, how about I start building like some actual interaction with these people? So then the platform works. You can kind of post things just like on Facebook. So I started posting just little mindfulness tips, just one a day, nothing too crazy, just to start opening up this dialogue, and that really hit off. And so now I started doing that in April, just 4 months ago, and now I have 3,500 people following me on this thing, just on my on my mindfulness quotes and advice, and I'm getting hundreds of messages publicly and privately about low risk and high risk mental health things, and I'm spending hours on this thing every day, just talking to people, and it's
sounds like a healthy Facebook.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. That's exactly. And they have moderators, like the staff is keeping an eye on everything and making sure that nothing is inappropriate. And if an advertisement goes on, it gets flagged and removed. And if there's anything that's vulgar or sexual or I don't know, too triggering, the moderators are very on top of it. So it is basically a Facebook. It's a mental health. I mean, it's for mental health. It's a Facebook for mental health.
It's just the mighty.com.
The mighty.com. Yeah. And it's not even only mental health. It's also, people who have cancer, and they want to have a group of people who have cancer and then talk to it, or arthritis or autoimmune disease. I mean, there's things that I didn't even know existed. I'm talking to so many people. It seems like there's an unlimited amount of things that can go wrong with your mind and body, and so I'm talking to all these people are joining my group, and which is wonderful. But it's getting to be a lot, because I do answer every single message I get. Well, that's not true, because messages get lost within the messages, so I can't actually respond. But I'm doing my best to respond to everything. And I love it. Like I can't get enough. Like I'd much rather spend, Saturday night talking to depressed people than go out partying. Because also I can help people. Like there's people with suicide, who raise a concern that they're at suicide risk, and they write me, and I've been able to de-escalate situations in just like 5 text messages, just not even long, just in a couple minutes, and not even me stressing, like just while I'm eating my dinner or something, just like with one hand, like let me de-escalate the situation. You know what I mean? Like it's just.
Well, also you've been there, that mindset, which gives you a superpower.
Yeah. Well, yes. And I think that's one of the reasons is that a lot of people in mental health are actually struggling themselves.
Sure.
And they want help, which is of course wonderful. But it has some problems similar to if you're on an airplane and there's a gas, and they say, oh, if the gas comes down, the gas mask comes down, you need to put it on yourself first,
right? Or
someone else. Like if you can't swim, you can't jump in the water and help someone who's drowning.
Although people do, right? And then everyone drowns.
Yes, exactly. So a lot of people with mental health problem, with depression, are trying to help people with depression, and it's just not working. I don't think.
They want to use that as a conduit for themselves. Like you see a lot in mental health. We talk about that on the show a lot, is that people are drawn to those things that they themselves are trying to touch when they're not ready necessarily to touch it in themselves. They use the others as an avatar, if you will.
Totally. And so you can see this effect. If you go on the Mighty, you can see that everyone who's trying to help is also very still suffering. They're still very much in it. And I am definitely past it. And so and I know how to get past it. And so I'm coming in with a totally different perspective and energy and attitude than everyone else. And that's how I can just get these, like I can just knock them out. Let's just assembly line all these people out of their depression. Because it's also my approach is just, it is different than what everyone else is doing. It's obvious. It's just so obviously working. And that's why the numbers are going up as quickly as they are. The articles, I'm also publishing articles. Those are doing very well.
That's great. Are you going to write another book, you think?
Yeah, well, I also want to publish a memoir about what it was like to be in lockdown. Just a year. I don't think I'll go into the what do you call it? The step down boarding school, but just that one lockdown, I think that'd be very interesting. And then I can really just unload some good mindfulness, mental health advice. It won't be so much about the story. The story, of course, is important, but it's really like, so if you read this, by the time you're done reading the story, you've also actually gone through the transition of like, you've gotten the therapy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, so you've gotten all the advice. It's not just like me. It's not about me. It's like, you'll be in the driver's seat getting the therapy, because it doesn't matter what your actual issues are. It's about changing your perspective and how you deal with hurtful thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's how I can assembly line these things, because I don't go into details about who rejected you or who abandoned you or who hurt you or who hit you or who did these things. It's like, okay, pain, and now we're here. Like, we put it as simple as, there was pain, trauma, fine. Now let's get past it. We can actually get rid of it. Which
it's probably trickier with people that have brain chemistry issues.
Yeah, probably. But even then, I'll still have the same approach. A lot of people are resistant to it too. Like, some people will even fight me. Like, people will come to my group for help, and I'll say, okay, you can get past this. And then they'll start fighting me. Like, people don't want to. Don't want to let go.
Well, even sadness is comforting, right? Fear is comforting. Hate is comforting. These are all comforting emotions if you're used to having them.
Yeah, so we stick to what's familiar, and that's why people continue to have abusive relationships, because they know how that dynamic works, and it's safe, even though they might be getting hurt, or they are getting hurt either physically or emotionally. They understand it, and we like to predict and have some kind of control.
The devil,
Yeah, exactly. And the same thing with our depression or anxiety or anger. Like, if I said you can actually let it go, people would almost feel naked. Like, well, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Who am I supposed to be now? Or they're so used to thinking a certain way that they don't actually believe that it's possible to let go. A lot of people with mental health will say that you can't be 100% cured. But I'm keep saying you can do it. Like, you can do it. Like, there's no limit to what you can do. You can get past. It's already gone. Like, what do you mean? It's like the past is already gone. The past isn't 99% gone. The past is
right.
Gone.
Right.
And people don't want to accept this, because we hold on to our story, and we have so much pride, even if it's painful. It's like, oh, this is my story, and I did all these things, and I'm like, and I can't just let go. Like, that's who I am. And so every now and then someone is just ready to drop it all, and you can see it, and it's really beautiful. Like, they just click, and it's all gone, and they start speaking in a way that's like almost like a child with a whole new perspective of life is now a game. But then there's also most people, like, no, they're not really ready. They want to get help, but they want to get help in a way where they can still hold on or still engage in their bad habits, which is understandable. But that you're not going to be able to transcend whatever your issue is if you still want to participate in it. You really got to let it go, which is super hard, because that's unfamiliar territory. It's scary. Even if you leave your apartment without a cell phone, some people feel naked. Or if you go without a purse, you feel, or a computer, you feel like, oh, I feel naked. And it's the same thing with your emotional baggage. If you let it go, it's quite it's like this leap of faith into unknown that really creates a lot of resistance.
I often wonder if people could see the phone as having a vein or something that weaves into your own vein, if they would be more apt to leave it behind in cases, do you know what I'm saying? Like, if they could see what it actually is, the spider web of how it is connected to you, it would probably creep people out enough that they'd start leaving it at home.
Again, but I think this is logical. Like, it makes sense that people would do that. But think about it, even people who have heroin addiction.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
they're still doing it.
There's great research about that. There's a book by Dr. David Reddish, and I can't recall the name of the book right now, but it's Dr. David Reddish. And he talks about how humans know that they're doing something that is not good for them, and yet they will still overwrite that program into doing things that they know are harmful.
Yeah, totally.
There's a lot of research about that these days.
Yeah, we love hurting ourselves. It's such an interesting phenomenon, and when it's so obvious, and like I'm going to do something that is not good for me, but you do it anyway.
Yeah.
It's so I'd like to think that if there was some kind of vein, cell phone vein, that people okay, this is not good. But I don't think so. I think
you don't think so.
I don't care. Like, I'm just going to do it just as much. I really think that people have their vices and they don't want to let go.
What do you recommend for parents who have children that are going through stuff that don't have the resources to send them to camps like you went to or lockdowns like you went to?
Well, there are so many wonderful resources online. There's so many mental health mindfulness teachers that just have these sessions where they talk about how to battle your thoughts. And I think, one thing that I've noticed a lot is I reach out to a lot of people in the Mighty and just saying, hi, I see that you're either profiled to something about depression or you made a post about depression. I get you. I'm here. And I get such a positive response. Everyone thinks they're alone, or like they think they're the only one. So I think it's really important first to let people know that these sort of things, like your mind attacking you, is very normal and it's totally human, and it's definitely part of the process of growing up and becoming who you are. Is the internal battle, you versus yourself, and that it's okay to talk about this. You're not alone. Like you can pretty much say everyone is going through this, and the more awareness you have of the mechanisms of the mind trying to work against you, the more, just like the gaslighting article, the more you can see that these things are happening, the more you can be like, oh, okay, that symptom, I recognize that, and then you can put some distance between you and that rather than attaching to whatever negative thought pops up in your head. So if I think we really need to be talking about mental health as soon as we can, in first, second, third grade, whatever. Let's talk about how the mind works, dark thoughts, painful thoughts, and at that age you don't need to get to anything grotesque, but you still talk about negativity and how that's just a thought, and you don't have to purchase every thought that comes in. Doesn't mean that it's true. Your mind lies to you all the time, and to be aware, like, oh, what did just kind of have show and tell. You'd be like, oh, what did your mind lie to you about today, or whatever? Just so you have a healthy skepticism towards the negativity of your mind, and then as you mature and as that gets stronger, and then you'll start having the most terrible thoughts of your life, which is totally normal. Then you're like, oh yeah, but that's still just mind activity. I don't have to believe this thought of me not being good enough, or me not being good looking, or I'm never going to make it, or I can't do it, or nobody likes me, or all these things that come and get you. And there's and so if we start at an early age, I think that'd be great. If you're any other age is also, I have a mindfulness teacher who I watch every single day. His name's Muji. His videos, the most beautiful videos about what to do when your mind is attacking you, and to let the Muji, Mooji. There's also a guy named Eckhart Tolle who's been on Oprah several times. It's the same. It's the same thing. They just have the different styles, but it's the same thing of just this thoughts and what to do with thoughts, and that they don't actually have the power over you that you think that they do. And you can start practicing not letting them hurt you, and then they can just kind of come, and then you see, oh, there's just thoughts coming, and I don't actually have to feed them with attention. I can just let it go. And the more you do that, the more you'll experience peace in your life, and silence, and peace of mind, and presence. It has all these words of oneness, but it's the same thing. Just silence and peace of mind is what we're all going for, because there's so much noise in our head and just so much violence, and there's a whole battle going on in our head, and it's driving us nuts because we're engaged. And if you can take a step back and just be, okay, there's just going to be some kind of violence over here and some nonsense over here, but I don't have to engage. It starts to quiet down. And even when it says you're an idiot, you're ugly, like no, I'm not listening to that. Get out, like you can kind of just like brush it off, kind of,
I think that's a fantastic practice to say, what lies did my mind tell today?
Yeah.
That's excellent. That's excellent advice, I think.
Because there's a million, you've had 1,000, 10,000 thoughts. A lot of them have been quite negative, most likely. And we could be from, start off, well, the first thing could be, you should hit the snooze button today. That's probably, instead of getting up, and then don't exercise or don't eat healthy, or, very simple things to, that person across the street just looked at you because you're an idiot, or you're totally gonna have a bad day at work today, and that your assignment you failed, or whatever. It's like whoa, calm down, mind. Like I'm like, that's just, you're just making this up, and the more, because you can easily have those thoughts and believe it, and then your whole day is ruined. But if you can see, okay, your mind is just doing this, you can be like, you know what, actually, bring it on. Like, throw your best punch. Like you can say the worst things to me, and I know that it's not real. Like, you can actually switch it and be like, throw your best punch. And then when you can get that far, then you're very free, because then you don't have to say no. You can be like, so what? You're just a thought. It is just a thought. And then you're quite more at peace with who you are and your situation in life. And you can do this for free. So as you said, what would parents do for the children who can't afford this? All of this is for free. You don't need to spend any money on any of this mental health stuff. Everything that I do on the Mighty, totally for free. There's no ads. I'm getting nothing. I don't have a product. I don't have a website. I don't have anything. And that goes for everybody on the Mighty. It's all for free. There's resources everywhere. That guy Muji, it's all for free. Eckhart Tolle, there's more hours of both of them on YouTube than you're ever going to watch, totally for free. And that's just two teachers. There's lots of other teachers. So
Ram Dass is a great one.
Ram Dass, yeah.
When I first heard Experiments in Truth, I got it on Audible years ago, and now I listen to it it's once a year. I listen to it, and just as a reminder,
Yeah.
It's great stuff.
But then also, why just once a year? I do this. How I exercise regularly, but why don't we, physical exercise? Why don't we also mental health exercise?
Oh, I do other stuff, but that's a touchstone for me. I go back to it once a year, and I listen to The Alchemist twice a year. That's one of my most favorite books, and it is very powerful to me in that same idea. It's that holding hands with the universe to be bigger than your thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's what surrender is. This is the situation that the universe is in, and to resist that is insanity, because it is that the world is this, and when you want things to be different, of course there's going to be tension. So surrender is like holding hands with the universe. This is presence, acceptance, business, whatever. There's a lot of different words for it. I haven't read The Alchemist, but I've heard about it.
Oh, so you would love it, I feel.
I know that I wouldn't, and I don't know why I haven't read it, but I have my eye on it. I don't know why I haven't, but I know that I would like it. I know that I love it.
I've read it, and I've done the Audible, and even the Audible is perfect. Jeremy Irons reads it, and how do you not love that voice? So but it's an excellent book. Yeah.
But so practice just these little things every day. Like I have Post-its all over my on my computer or wherever that say just like silence or play or relax, or just these things, just like, oh yeah, just remember, like it, or it's just a thought, and just like, oh yeah, okay, because it's very easy to get caught up. So I have reminders everywhere. I watch Muji every single day. Also, now that I'm talking to all these people, I'm professing mindfulness. So I practice a lot. Just like any skill, and there's a lot of resistance to that too. I tell the people on the Mighty, like, you need to practice every day. Like, they'll watch a Muji video once and they're like, now what? I'm like, no.
I'm fixed.
So it's like, no, you gotta like make this a practice. You can't just do it once and then think you can be cured. You gotta put work into your mental health.
Yeah, because the brain is super duper duper super duper duper powerful.
Yeah, and we've been conditioning ourselves to think a certain way forever, and to undo that and start working towards peace, you have to do just as much unconditioning and then start going in the right direction. So it's a lot of work to get rid of your bad habits.
Yeah, and the warden in our brain doesn't want us to figure out that we're actually the one in control.
Yeah. There's a story where like there's a village and there's a thief, and so the villager, they want to catch the thief, so they hire a police officer, but the police officer is the thief who's just pretending to not be, and so the village thinks that the police officer is doing a good job looking for the thief because he takes out his gun and runs around and blows his whistle. But the police officer, he's never, ever going to actually catch the thief because it's him. And that's how our mind works. It makes us think, oh, I'll do this and I'll do that. And I'll do all this elaborate things that are just distractions. That's not actually getting us where, and we might feel some kind of benefit, which is also a trick because it's not really the long-term goal of conquering your mind. But the mind is very cunning in making us think that we're making progress, even though we're definitely not. And then they'll get you, like, if people start practicing mindfulness, they'll think, oh, email. And then they'll stop doing the exercise and go to email, or think, oh, I wonder how many different color M&Ms there are. Oh, I got to Google that. Let's Google, like, how many.
That sounds like my brain.
Yeah, well, it's everyone's brain. I mean, that's how it works. As soon as you're onto the right track, your mind will be like, oh, what about all this stuff? And like, oh yeah, that's a good point. And then that's how easily it gets you. So you have to practice being aware of how your mind just trying to get you off the path. But if I told someone, oh, if you want good mental health, just go on Amazon.com for 2 hours. That would be so easy. Like, people would have no problem going on Amazon.com for 2 hours and just window shopping. But as soon as I say, watch a 10-minute YouTube video of Muji, people are like, no, I can't do it. Like, they really freak out. There's so much resistance. That's
the thing of, if you can practice meditation, to just start with 5 minutes.
Yeah, you got to start slow. But I never actually like sit there and meditate. That's not for me, but just listening to, I just can't get enough emoji. So just listening to him speak to other people, that's enough for me.
Yeah. Thomas, how can people find you if they want to reach out?
Well, they can on the Mighty, you can find my name, which is Thomas Ousterhout, or you can go to find my community, which is called Conquer Your Mind. And you can look at those in the search, just search for that. I've also started publishing articles on Medium, which is just a writing platform. And that's my username used to be Thomas Ousterhout. Now it's Thomas of Copenhagen, because I think it's easier to remember. So Thomas of Copenhagen on Medium, or Thomas Ousterhout, or Conquer Your Mind on the Mighty.
And I'll put links on Hey Human Podcast to make it easier for people that are wondering how the hell to spell your last name.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So that's another reason I just want to bypass that, because it's a ridiculous last name.
No, it's a cool last name. It's just tricky. Yeah. There's a lot of vowels in there. Thomas, thank you so much. This has been really wonderful. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Bye. Rate and review Hey Human on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks. Bye.